DoctorAche reviews 2001 A Space Odyssey. Short review. This film is a modern masterpiece. 50 years old, and it is still amazing. It's amazingly not dated, and it still provokes new interpretations. I don't know if I have ever or will ever see its equal. Writing, 9 out of 10. Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke's writing is unparalleled in this film. From the story itself, to the subtext, to the themes, and to the many interpretations available, the writing is and was masterful. Beginning gets a 9 out of 10. The first full 3 minutes of screen time is a black screen and a score that just builds the anticipation and helps you feel the scale of this film. The epicness. It opens with the dawn of man. We spend 20 minutes with these man-apes. No dialogue until 26 minutes into this epic. Kubrick's demonstration of his expertise is shown so well in this movie. He really shows how to do show don't tell, and it is spectacular. Ending gets a 9 out of 10 from me. I'm not even going to taint the ending by attempting to explain it or give my interpretation of it. Everyone should experience it themselves, and their conclusions are theirs to have. Characters, I'm giving an 8 out of 10 to. Hal is by far the most interesting and dynamic character in this film, and that says a lot for the film and what it's trying to convey. The characters are so realistic and expertly cast and portrayed. Performances get a 9 out of 10. Perfect performances by everyone. From the man-apes to Dave to the voice of Hal. The whole 140-ish minutes of this film, only 40 of those minutes have any dialogue. The deliveries are spectacular, of course, and that means that most of the performances are just sheer performances and talent. Just wow. Timing, I'm giving a 9 out of 10 to. Kubrick's deliberate and expert pacing just speaks for itself in this film. Sound, I'm giving a 9 to. Every sound effect was perfect for this movie, for this film. Score, I'm giving a 9 out of 10 to. Kubrick's music choices were as deliberate as they were felicitous. The famous works he chose fit perfectly and are now iconic and forever tied to this masterpiece. Visuals get a 9 out of 10 for me. This film's visuals are stunning and hold up entirely. They even surpass a majority of modern movie special effects, if you ask me. It is incredible how timeless this film is, and it does not for a second feel like a 50-year-old film. Believability gets a 9. As I said, this film holds up to this day, and I believe it will hold up for several years to come, probably decades. This film's realistic space travel and obstacles and dialogue and just everything is just so believable. This is one of the most realistic takes on technology required for space travel and everything that goes along with it. Not to mention all the technology, and sociopolitics that are predicted in this film. From the FaceTime, Ulu, Skype, Snapchat calls to the MRE, not real food sandwiches that they eat on the moon. The predictions were so accurate, and some of the technology in this film isn't even available yet, but it is so sound you know it must be in the works, or it's just not declassified yet for the public. Editing gets a 9 out of 10. Kubrick really honed in on the editing. There is not a single frame that was by accident, and it is perfect. Cry, this movie did not make me cry, although I've heard of some people having such a strong, for lack of a better word, cathartic experience that they broke down crying from this film. Message, I'm giving a 9 out of 10 to. This film is filled to the brim with messages and motifs. One is the inherent violence and potential of war by man. Another is the humans are babies in space. And I could keep going, but I want to get into them in a later section. So this isn't longer than it already has been. Impact is a 9 out of 10. This film is referenced everywhere in pop culture. It's referenced so much that some of the references are to references. There are, and the references are so socially impactful. Like, it's astronomical. My personal impact was astounding too. I hope everybody can experience this film as well. Not just watch the film, but allow yourself to experience it. Production value is a 9 out of 10. This film is one of the most expertly produced films ever made. From the sets, to the costumes, to the special effects, to the music, just everything was perfect. Overall enjoyability is a 9 out of 10. As I have said, modern masterpiece. Rewatchability / recommendability is a 9 out of 10. I'm not even going to beg you to watch this film. For those of you who have a desire to watch it, you will. And for those who don't, they just won't. The desire for the experience is what will make all the difference. I will not make any attempts to persuade you into seeing this if you haven't yet. It is a decision you must make, and the decision you make will determine your experience. Pros and cons time. Okay, I want to do something a little different for this film. Instead of doing pros and cons, I want to call this things I liked and questions / problems I have due to the sheer lack of cons, and because what I talk about here may not fall into either pro or con categories or territories, depending on your definition of pros and cons. Alright, here we go. Part 1 of this film, Dawn of Man. The amazing anticipation building with the music and the black screen for the first full 5 minutes was breathtaking. It really sets the stage for the rest of the film. The scale and the artistry, the expert handling. Not a single line of dialogue in this entire Dawn of Man sequence, yet Kubrick's legendary directing leaves no confusion at all. You know exactly what is going on. You know what the man-apes are doing, thinking. Body language is everything. It's such a great opening. The cinematography is breathtaking. The score, when the monolith arrives and how it swells and blocks out all other sound, it's amazing, iconic, and a historical scene. Followed by another amazing, iconic historical scene was when Moonwatcher, the leader of the Man-Apes, learns about tools or weapons with the bone. It's just pure cinematographical, pure cinematic gold. It's amazing. I love that the baby Man-Apes are real-life baby chimpanzees. Also, as soon as the Man-Apes get the tools or weapons, they use them against another clan of Man-Apes. I think that is supposed to signify, represent, or imply something. Probably the most famous edit in history is when Moonwatcher throws the bone weapon into the air and it cuts to the advanced nuclear satellite 4 million years later. Part 2. This is an untitled section. Possibly it's implying that it's still part of the dawn of man. Even though we've evolved so much, we're still at the dawn of our existence. I think that's why it didn't have a title card. 20 minutes into the film is when part 2 starts, and only now do you get to the 2001-ish time period. Kubrick really takes his time, and it's great. The score as man makes his way into space is amazing. Show, don't tell in every possible scene. All of the future things to cope with being in space, such as the toilets and the sticking Velcro shoes and so on, that they're just so genius. The first line of dialogue isn't until almost 26 minutes into this film. Everything is white and looks so sterile and clean. The dialogue between Floyd and the astronauts on the space station is great. Really great atmosphere, great dialogue, and great subtext. For the sheer minimal amount of dialogue there's an immense amount of subtext. And it's amazing. Really well done stewardess food delivery, and the space food in general. I like how it's all liquid and that they have to drink it all through a straw. It's a lot like baby food. Back to the motif of humans are children in space. They have to eat baby food. They have to learn how to use a toilet again. They have to learn how to walk. It's really all great imagery. It's cool how she walks upside down to deliver the food to the pilots. It's a really cool effect that they had to rig up. If you want to see how that was done, there's plenty of videos on it. It's really interesting. Zero gravity toilet is also a very funny little inclusion that I already talked about. Score, again, I have to say, is amazing. Kubrick really picked the best music for this film. Such great show don't tell, yet another sequence of scenes with no dialogue, just visual storytelling. During the briefing, they really set the stage very well. The amount of information they give is perfect. Everyone knows what Floyd is talking about but the audience, and the information they give is perfect for getting us to understand what's going on, but still leaving us without enough information to keep us questioning and interested in the plot. The sets and cinematography are spectacular. I only know this film is 50 years old because I know it came out in the year 1968. The effects are amazing, and the cameras are just so good. Nothing in or about this film feels dated. It looks and feels better than a lot of modern and new movies. One thing that I have a question about is, it says it was 4 million years ago that the monolith was buried on the moon. And that's just a change that they made from the book that I thought was unnecessary, or just an odd change, because in the book it's 3 million years it's been buried. It's a minor change. It's just, I don't know why Kubrick would have changed it. On the drive to the crater, they give us information little by little, and it's great, and it feels so natural, the way that the astronauts are all talking to themselves on the rover. An amazing show don't tell with the monolith. From the second they arrive at the dig site, there's no more dialogue, nothing but score, camera movement, and body language, and it is perfect. And then it cuts immediately to part 3, Jupiter mission. Cuts right to 18 months later on the Jupiter mission. Great way to show us the astronauts' daily routine. It shows us the way that Dave just goes about his day. Amazing show don't tell. The exposition in the form of the broadcast to the astronauts that they're watching is a necessary evil. It is done so well. I'm not even upset about it. It is logical, efficient, and necessary. Really well done exposition. The arrogance of Hal is displayed from the first words out of his mouth. He claims to be perfect, and that the HAL 9000s can never make a mistake. The chess match between Hal and Dave, the chess match that they have, Hal wins, but he actually makes a mistake in his assurance of Dave's defeat, which is telling. Hal notices a problem with the equipment as he's talking to Dave about his concerns about the mission. That also is very telling for the mindset, or the psychology, if you will, of Hal, the AI. The lack of score, plus the heavy breathing, plus the air inflow is amazing to set the stage while Frank is going to fix the problem. It really has a lot of suspense, and it feels just so raw. Why didn't Frank attach the pod to the ship? Why did he jump out of the pod and drift so many yards instead of just attaching to Discovery 1 or just getting closer to Discovery 1? That I don't really understand. After the part is replaced and they find that nothing is wrong with it, Hal again arrogantly blames it on human error, stating he could not have made an error, so it's the only logical explanation. The way that Dave isolates him and Frank to talk without Hal being capable of listening is amazing, and it's genius. It's so natural and it's so believable. Hal is a bit too... Hal doesn't miss a beat, and he sees through it, but Dave and Frank really sell it. Like, a person might not have been able to notice, like if they were in Hal's shoes. Great dialogue and setting the stakes. Great show don't tell of Hal being able to read their lips as well. Then there's the intermission. You know it's an epic, and it's art when there's an intermission, and it's at the perfect time, and it really builds the anticipation as you wait for the intermission to be over. And because it's a long film, if you do need to use the restroom or get a drink or something like that, it gives you 10 minutes to do so. And as soon as the intermission is over, we cut right back to Frank changing the part out. And right away, it's, oh no, the pot is moving on its own. And then the complete silence as Frank gets hit and he's struggling to basically not die as he's just drifting away. And great scene of Dave going and retrieving Frank, or should I say Frank's body. I'd like to add how stoic and robotic the men have been in this film. Part 3 in particular, I think that the film is trying to suggest that humans have become more robotic than robots. Hal shows more emotion in this film than Dave and Frank do. I mean, unless you count Frank when he's struggling for his life, but yeah, I think it's a very distinct impression that they're trying to make in this film. I like how we get to see inside the flashing screen saying computer malfunction. I think it's a bit ironic, and it's a really great inclusion to show that the computer is making mistakes. Hal kills all of the hibernating men and turns off all life support systems on the ship. And Dave has to try to find... Dave asks Hal to open the door and let him in after he has Frank. He saved Frank's, or retrieved Frank's body. And then the classic line, the historical, iconic line. "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." I love it. It's so good. It's really sad that Dave has to let Frank go, and although he doesn't show it too much, you can tell that he's really not happy about it. Dave's cool-headedness, deliberation, and precision is just wow. Also, his ingenuity to get back inside is wow. He doesn't have a helmet, so he has to literally air push himself inside in space. There's no air. It's amazing. And then he gets inside, and there's the breathing, and you can tell he's upset, and he's just on a mission. And he goes, and Hal starts begging for his life. And it's really emotional. Like, it's crazy that you feel such emotion for a robot that just killed a man who hasn't really had too much dialogue, and it's amazing how they can make you have an emotional feeling for artificial intelligence in this movie when we spend so little time and have such little understanding of them, but enough understanding to connect. Kubrick was a genius. Also, Hal's singing of Daisy just before he dies is incredibly significant. For those of you who don't know, if my memory stands true, Daisy was the first song ever to be sung by a computer program. And it was a test to see if a computer program could have inflation or, talk like a person rather than just being monotone all the time. And the first song ever attempted was Daisy. And I think that's very interesting and fitting that Kubrick would have Hal sing that before he died. And the message about the real intentions of the mission is great exposition and explanation. And it's actually the last line of dialogue in the film. And the last line of dialogue is, "Origin and reason for the monolith is unknown." And then we get to part 4. Jupiter and beyond the infinite. It's amazing how well the Earth, Moon, and planets look, considering this film is 50 years old, and they didn't even have the photography that we have today. They didn't know if the Earth, Moon, Jupiter, all of them, would look the way that they do. And the film captures them so well. The only problem with the way that they look in the film is that maybe they're just a little too bright. And that's such a minor flaw, considering everything. Breathtaking interdimensional travel. Dave gets in his pod and he goes, and the monolith just sends him interdimensionally. It is such eye candy, and it continues for so long. Many people have had, for lack of a better term, religious experiences watching this scene. It is so subjective and open to experience. I can't understand how the combination of colored pixels, the screen, and vibrations of the air, sound or music, can produce such emotion. All it is colored pixels, light, and vibrations of the air, and it makes you feel such a strong emotion. Kubrick did. Kubrick understood it, and Kubrick did it. He made it so that others could feel what he did, and I could never do anything that amazing or perfect or artful. When Dave arrives at the human zoo, so to speak, he doesn't say a word. In fact, like I said, there isn't any more dialogue. Part 3 has the last line of dialogue, so this whole part 4, not a word is uttered. It's all show don't tell. It's all visual storytelling. Dave wanders the zoo, and he walks through and he checks out the bathroom. And I'm pretty sure the bathroom doesn't have a toilet, by the way. And he goes back to the other room, and I'm not even going to attempt to explain what happens. It would be a disservice if I attempted such an act. I will not taint it with my thoughts or butchered interpretations. Please suffice it to say, you must watch this, please. Pretty faithful adaptation overall from book to film. And that makes sense because Stanley Kubrick commissioned Arthur C. Clarke to write the book and as the book was being written, he and Arthur C. Clarke were writing the screenplay. They wrote both at the same time, so of course it's going to be a very faithful adaptation, and both book and film are the perfect version of each story for each medium. Final thoughts. I'm going to say it again. Modern masterpiece. This film is maybe the greatest film ever made. It is spectacular. It's amazing. It's an amazing, fabulous film. I could talk for days about the symbolism and subtext. Talk about the messages and what everything means. Or at least what I think everything means. I could go on and on and on and on. And maybe I will one day. But this video is already tremendously long, and I will just sum up everything by saying this film is a masterpiece. Just before I get to the rating, I'd like to say that personally I have two categories when it comes to motion pictures. There are movies, which I define as entertainment or fun. Most motion pictures fall into movie category. Almost all. do for me. Then there are films. Films are art. 2001: A Space Odyssey is irrevocably and undeniably a film. It is a work of art. Rating from 1 to 10 is a 9 out of 10. If there was ever going to be a film that got a 10, this would absolutely be a 10. This concludes my review of 2001: A Space Odyssey. I also did a review of the audiobook 2001: A Space Odyssey. Click the thing on the screen if you'd like to check that out. It was very, very good. If you want to see my other videos, they should be on the screen as well. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I really spent a lot of time and energy making this one, and I hope it showed. Please tune into the next videos I do. I hope they're as entertaining to watch as they are to make. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!